we still haven't reached the low point.
The
We have to
elephant
go.
in the room, so to
Oh,
speak. Oh man, I'm full of terrible,
I want to
terrible
get to
puns right
the.
now.
I want to get to the fat of the matter, and the matter at hand is on Friday night, just a few days ago, just this past weekend, a shooting in the fourth inning of a meaningless game between, and this is important to stress as we get to the details of this, in a meaningless game between the Athletics and the White
Hey,
Sox.
you
Two
stay out
people,
of A's business here.
yeah, two people were injured by gunshot.
Yeah, were they shot? This is what's confusing about the whole story. There's been so many directions this story has gone. It's still unfolding. Like what nobody knows what the fuck happened. But yeah, apparently there was a woman was grazed by a bullet and refused treatment because it was such a minor injury. But another woman was shot in the leg, and I think apparently there was a lot of blood loss, so she had to go to the hospital. But it was not like a life threatening situation,
Right.
which is good
Um,
news. No one was killed. It wasn't a shooting spree or anything. I mean, you hear about like gunfire in a fucking stadium. It's like what just happened? I mean, considering headlines we see around the country every fucking day, it seems like it's like that's the last thing you want to see, especially at Sox Park.
yeah, the odd thing about the whole story, and this is where all the confusion started as the Chicago police were investigating. There's a few layers here. One,
Mhm.
they finished the game. let's start. Let's just start. At,
The-
at,
and I heard conflicting reports about that. The Chicago police wanted to stop the game, but then the Sox wouldn't let him. But wouldn't the police have the final say on that if it's a public safety matter? So they must have agreed that they didn't need to postpone the game.
yeah,
That can't be all on the White Sox decision makers. The city's involved in that
right.
too.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. There. The story, the final story I heard, that it was determined that there was not. It wasn't an active shooter
And yeah,
incident.
and that's very true. It's just amazing they could figure that all that out so quickly after such an inexplicable incident occurred that they can't even figure out what happened now. But they came to that conclusion they shouldn't postpone the game at that moment. So
Number two for me is, I don't know if you've seen the video of when it happens. There's
I couldn't
no
figure it out.
audible gunshot sound.
That was going to be my next question.
Then
There's no panic.
there's no panic. Everyone's just sitting in the stands watching the game.
Nobody knew what happened.
You don't
Sitting
even
next.
know it. Yeah, you don't even know what's happening until someone finally like waves for some help.
Yeah. And like people are kind of looking over just because
Yeah,
there's a commotion, but no one reacted as if a gun fucking went off. Which,
right.
especially like I said, in this climate, I mean, with gun violence everywhere, you'd think there would have been a panic if there was if people know what a gunshot sounds like, even if it was a firecracker, if it went off in a fucking
Yeah.
stadium around hundreds of people, there would have been a
Yeah.
mass panic. So there was no sound to this either, which is bizarre.
Well, we may know the answer to that.
Well,
Uh,
there's a couple
so
possible explanations, but yes.
so at first, there was speculation that someone at the park, which Smitty brought up earlier about like where they could add parking or not, and they can't because there's Armour Square Park, which has
Yeah.
landmark status, that someone shot a bullet up in the air and it came down, and because no one knew what happened,
There,
and and they had a bullet, but they had no casing.
yeah, there's
So
there's the logic behind that, the no casing, and then no audible gunfire.
right.
All of a sudden, a bullet just comes from the sky and hits somebody. But I didn't understand how it could graze one person in the
And go through
abdomen,
someone else's leg. Yeah.
yeah, and go through some crazy magic bullet, or they were laying on top of each other, or something was happening
The
strange
magic
in the
bullet.
in
Yeah.
the bleachers there.
But we've come to learn, we don't have to like prolong the
Yeah,
speculation. Although we do have to dissect the different stories around this about what actually happened. And there is an article on Sports Mockery I suggest everyone read, because they keep updating it. section that says update, and they keep putting the latest details below it,
Yeah, and I think
below the
others have
initial article.
cited that, and I think that's become a larger story than just theirs, which I don't know much about sports mockery, but I'd be there. It doesn't look like the most reputable. Not like they're upholding journalist tenets such that the Sun Times or Chicago Tribune might. So they're going based on secondhand accounts and other sources. But it seems to be coming to fruition that their sources are know what the hell is really going on.
Right. Their update came from Ben Bradley from WGN TV News,
Okay.
where he first reported that a woman hid a gun within her fat of her stomach, essentially, and brought it into the ballpark.
So many questions.
Now,
Number one, I think we've both been fat guys. We're on the leaner side of our existence over time, but I'm not sure
never that big.
I never had a gut where I could actually hide a firearm within. So how large is this person that we're speaking of?
Yeah, and I'm voting Gunt is where she put.
Well, gunt is a word that comes to mind. Fupa is another one. I don't. This might be a whole different level of that, which you can look
Yeah,
those up on Urban Dictionary if you don't.
yeah,
Very
but the Ben Bradley report initially spells out that she went through security 3 times. Now,
okay.
now this has been changed since, but I just want to give you the initial report when it was confirmed
Okay.
that a large woman smuggled a gun in within the fat of her belly.
God.
Um, she went through one time, and they're like, "Go through again." She goes through another time. She goes through a third time, sets it off all 3 times. They wander, and the White Sox, because all the security guys are men, which makes no sense that you wouldn't have one fucking female security guard. Because I mean, what? There's no woman would do anything maybe criminal. Only men
Well,
would.
but think
So,
about how this transaction, even if there was a woman's security guard there, how does that transaction work?
well, she
Excuse
could
me,
at least
ma'am.
pat her
Can you
down.
okay, but would you even I don't think you would find this firearm unless you stuck your
No.
hands within the folds.
Oh, no, no, I'm not saying that, but they couldn't even do like no fault of White Sox security. You couldn't even do a pat down. And I'm not, and I agree
I
with you. I'm not saying a pat down would have helped either. But
yeah, I well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like if they can't figure it out by a simple pat down or going through the detector 3 times, why wasn't she just told to leave? Like you didn't pass the metal detector. We're not gonna give you a fucking cavity search to go to a baseball game, but we can't let you in.
because that wasn't true.
Oh, there we go.
In the
You
latest
set me up, you son of a
report,
bitch.
from
Okay, I didn't see this.
Peggy, what's her name, Kaminsky
Krasinski?
or
Yeah.
yeah, Krasinski on NBC,
Okay.
she actually did not set off the metal detector and just got it in. The fat around the gun caused the metal detector not to go off.
Okay. So we have learned that if you are morbidly obese and can hide a firearm within your girth, it can thwart a, a metal detector, which is horribly disturbing on so many levels. So, wow. Number one, well, I have 2 questions. Well,
Maybe more, but go ahead, please.
well,
Yeah, start with question one.
they've talked about the like essentially the like the Cubs don't even use metal detectors anymore. They use explosive uh, detectors essentially. I barely remember going into Wrigley Field on Thursday when you and I went and saw
Yeah,
Guns
they
N'
were like
Roses there.
looking at a computer screen though while we
Yeah,
walked through.
it's a
Yeah.
very simple process. They did upgrade that like 2 years, 3 years ago, maybe. It was a big deal because it was going to speed up lines. So not only is it safer because it doesn't bother with metal, because everyone's got metal. I mean, you don't have to take your keys out of your pocket, your phone, just walk through because it's sensing actually gunpowder or whatever munitions might be on somebody, so it can sense that. So clearly, the White Sox are still working with metal detectors, which has to stop tomorrow. They need the state of the art at this point, since we found a way to circumvent the system. Obviously, the real question is, and this is the most disturbing one:
Why? Why bring a gun?
why? Why? Why was she hide? Why would she want to bring a gun? Why was she hiding it in her girth? Did she know that she could circumvent the system? Has she been doing this for years? Uh, and then beyond that, did the gun just happen to go off while it was inside the folds of her gut?
That's what I believe
That
because
is that the abdomen graze that
she gets the abdomen graze is on
okay.
her. That is confirmed. It's on her, and
She refused medical
the
attention
you're right because
because
you
she's
don't want to
freaked
find
out
the
because
gun.
yeah.
So that could explain why no one heard the gun because it was fucking muffled by her fucking
It was
fat.
silenced by the gunt.
The gunt of silence.
Uh, I just, I mean, I don't want to imagine the physics of that, but is that possible? I guess it's possible. I mean, how many scientific studies have been done to find out how a gun could be silenced by a gunt? Um, I I don't
The
know.
the report, the updated report goes on to say then someone actually did grab the gun and possibly the casing and leave the stadium.
Yeah, I'm guessing it was an acquaintance that saw what happened and got the fuck out of there. That's led to all this confusion.
Yeah.
Because if the gun was there and the casing was there, it'd be pretty simple to put two and two together. But since it's not, it's taken a week so far, or almost a week so far to figure this out. So, okay, that's starting to make more sense. It doesn't really make sense, but at
No,
least
it
we
doesn't make
understood
any
what
sense.
happened. So, I really hope the answer to the question is why is she just needs to carry a gun to feel safe. She wasn't coming there with nefarious thoughts and the gun went off before she could get to that. Like uh, I just I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know.
your mind goes in a thousand directions of how that could have gone, how weird it did go, and maybe it's fortunate. Maybe it's the best thing that's ever happened is that this happened. No one was killed, no one was seriously injured. The White Sox will upgrade their security. It just
I
shines a
mean,
light on what a disaster that could have been. What a horrific tragedy that could have been, and
it
was
is
narrowly avoided.
yeah, is she carrying a weapon because it was a 90s hip hop show that was supposed to take place later that evening?
Unfortunately, canceled due to technical difficulties.
Yes.
Tone Loc, Vanilla Ice, is that it? Was there somebody else? The I
And
Love the
Rob Bass.
90s? Rob
Rob
Bass were all
Bass.
there, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, their concert was canceled. I feel terrible, but yeah, that was the amusing thing, and it was probably the right thing to do. The White Sox posted a notice on the scoreboard that said, "Due to technical difficulties, the show has been canceled after the show or after the
Yes.
game." I don't think they can just say, "This stadium is now a crime scene. Get the fuck out." That might lead to some consternation and maybe a mass panic. I want to rip on the White Sox for being disingenuous in their scoreboard announcement, but I think that was definitely the right thing to do, not to draw any more attention to a situation that fortunately turned out not to be a mass panic event. So
Word Hole Media.